Welcome to the fourth and final installment on our series on African safaris. If you'd like to see the rest of the videos, be sure to check out our playlist right up here. Our special guest today is Susanne Rose, an expert travel advisor with Cruise Holidays of Oakville. Susanne has been meeting the needs of her clients in and around Oakville and across Canada for many, many years. Hi, Susanne. Welcome to RTE Travel Talk.
Hi, Ken. It's good to be back.
Great to have you with us, Susanne.
Thank
So
you.
this month we are looking at bucket list vacation for Africa and African safaris. Now, I happen to know that you just recently returned from the continent, so I was hoping today we could spend a little time and hear all about it and give us a bit of a review on your African safari. How does that sound?
I'd love to. I'm fresh back off the Jeep and been back about a week now, and it's all still fresh in my memory.
Super, super. So why don't you give us like a 30,000 foot level view of your tour,
So we flew, I took a group with
right?
me, and it was a private tour. So there were six of us. We flew from Toronto to Amsterdam and Amsterdam down to Kilimanjaro Airport in Tanzania.
Okay.
We were picked up there. We were guided through the whole tour. We did a bit of a traveling tour. So we were in different locations and, moved through Tanzania until the very end in the Serengeti.
Okay. So how long was the tour?
We were on the mainland for 7 days.
Okay.
We decided to take one off day right at the beginning when we landed. It was a longer flight. And then we hit the ground running and just went from there. And we were moving around for the 7 days.
Okay. So what countries in Africa were you in? Was it just Tanzania?
We were just on the mainland in Tanzania
Hmm.
for the safari for 7 days. And at the end, we flew from an airstrip in the Serengeti to Zanzibar for 5 days of R&R.
Okay. Okay. That sounds nice.
It was lovely. It was nice to wind down a bit after the safari because it was quite action packed. So that worked out quite well at the end.
So the tour, was it a guided tour, Suzanne, or a self-guided tour?
Yeah, no, I would absolutely suggest to take a guided tour. Our guide picked us up right at the aircraft at the Kilimanjaro airport, guided us through customs, picked up our luggage. We had a little welcome celebration when we got there, and he took us directly to our hotel and stayed with us to make sure that everybody was checked in. It all was very smooth.
Did you stay in any lodge? Was the hotel a lodge or?
We stayed in Arusha the first
Okay.
night. Actually, we stayed there for 2 nights.
Hmm.
I met with the guide company the first day, and we just stayed in Arusha. So we left Arusha and made our way to our first game drive in Lake Manyara. It was a slower start. We saw a few animals that day. We had an up close and personal with an elephant.
Oh, yeah.
I could reach right outside the Jeep and it was within an arm's length away. The roof of the Jeep lifts so you can step on your seat and take clear photos. We saw giraffes that day, lots of different kinds of monkeys. Then we made our way over to Ngorongoro crater, which is a caldera. It's an imploded volcano. There are 30,000 mammals living within that crater.
Wow.
It is about 15 miles wide and 600 meters deep. And the animals, they can get in, but they can't get back out. You see elephants, black rhinos. We saw four of the big five the first day,
Wow. Wow.
and we saw the last of the big five on the second day.
So you got to see
So
all of the big five. That's great.
we, we did within the first 2 days, we had them all ticked off. It was a fabulous experience. It's at a high altitude, it's at about 7,500 feet. So it's coolish
Right.
in the mornings. I always suggest to have a layered outfit. Like I said, it's cooler in the morning and it does get quite warm in the afternoon. When we went at the end of May, it was very pleasant.
Right.
But we saw hippos, flamingos, ostriches. We saw lions. We saw a lion pride. male, female lions. We saw cubs. It was just breathtaking. And in May, it's at the end of the rainy season. So things are still quite green
Right.
and they're blooming. And I have just endless photos of the landscape, the zebras. It was just breathtaking.
Right. So
So
how many were in your group again?
we had 6 people in our group
Right.
plus the guide.
Right.
The Jeep is equipped for 7.
Right.
We were 6 in the back of the Jeep.
Right.
There's a cooler inside the Jeep, so there's always refreshments, there's some
Right.
snacks, always something to drink. The Jeep is equipped with Wi-Fi, satellite Wi-Fi,
Oh, really?
and there are chargers for your phone. As we came to realize, taking so many pictures and videos, your phone tends to drain. I would also suggest maybe even a battery pack
Right.
to take along,
Right.
and binoculars.
How was the satellite Wi-Fi?
The satellite Wi-Fi was surprisingly good. It was not there all the
Right.
time, depending on where we were. But I would say, within 15 minutes, half an hour, it was back again. I was able to upload video from the Jeep.
Oh, that's amazing. So on this particular tour, I gather you didn't have any in-country flights. You just went to Tanzania and traveled.
We did
Oh, did
actually.
you?
So
Okay.
at the end of our safari,
Right.
we took off in a Dash 8 from the Serenera airstrip in the Serengeti. It's a dirt airstrip.
Right.
And we flew from there to Arusha, where we took on additional passengers. And from there, we flew to Zanzibar.
Oh, okay. Okay. So tell me about the typical day on safari.
The typical day, we had a few different kinds of
Mm-hmm.
days. They do start fairly early.
Okay.
We would get up, have breakfast, and we'd usually be out the door by 8:30 at the latest. We would start our game drive. The animals are more active in the morning,
Yes.
and we have a better chance of seeing them the earlier that you start. We had a packed lunch that was provided to us by the guide through each hotel that we were staying at. So we would have a warm picnic lunch in the middle of where we were. We had lunch in the middle of the crater. Possibility that animals walk through where you're having lunch is a good possibility. There seems to be a certain level of respect between the animals and the people, but from both sides. We did not have any close experiences. We had a stork walk through where we were having lunch. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
There were bathroom facilities periodically throughout the day. So, we were not roughing it in that regard.
Yeah. At no time did you feel unsafe, right?
We did not feel unsafe at any time.
Yeah.
Our guide did not leave our side from the beginning of the safari till the time we boarded the plane. He was with us at all times. We don't speak Swahili. So, there were times where we were with the Maasai tribes. They wanted to show us what they had produced there, bracelets, necklaces, that type of thing. He was there to help us negotiate with them.
So you mentioned that you had some interaction with the Maasai tribe, and they do have some wares to offer.
Yes.
So do you need to bring cash for this sort of thing, and what do you recommend
Yeah,
for
I
that?
would I would I would highly recommend to bring American
Right.
cash, bring small
Right.
bills. The people are very helpful there, whether it's transporting luggage, they want to help you, and you just give them, a few dollars tip here and there, and they're very happy with that.
Okay. What about gratuities for your guide that was with you along the way? Was that included, or was that at
No,
the
that
end?
was something that, amongst ourselves, we gave a sum to him at the end because we had such great service
Right.
from our guide. He was extremely knowledgeable about the animal life, about the plant life in the area. He actually made our trip for us.
Okay. The people that were in your group, was that now were you part of a larger group, or was it just the 6 or 7 of you in the one Jeep and you were traveling around?
It was a private safari for the 6 of
Okay.
us. So we traveled from Arusha.
Yeah.
We stayed at the Serena Mountain
Right.
Lodge at the Ngorongoro crater.
Right.
We stayed there for 2 nights. Then we went on to the Four Seasons Serengeti
Right.
resort, which is an all inclusive. You get there and, everything is taken care of. It's a beautiful resort. There's a watering hole on the edge of their pool where the elephants come in to drink. When you open up your balcony door, you're overlooking the plains of the Serengeti. We saw giraffes, baboons, Cape buffalo, wildebeest right in our backyard. It was breathtaking.
Amazing, just amazing. You and I both know, Suzanne, that there's lots of options out there for African safaris. Who did you employ for this particular tour? Who did you work with?
We went with a company called Excellent Guides,
Hmm.
Tours and Safaris. They made this experience for us a trip of a lifetime. It was streamlined from the moment we got there to the moment we left.
Hmm.
They had also integrated a balloon ride for us in the Serengeti, which probably one of the highlights of our trip.
Right.
It was a very early morning start
Yeah.
at 4:30 in the morning. We had a bit of a night safari on the way to where the balloon landing was. The six of us were on one side of the basket. It was breathtaking. We took off by sunrise. We could see the animals below. We did a bit of a range of altitude from we were just over the tree line to maybe 1,000 feet up in the air.
Yeah.
It was a highlight.
Right. So, what were the accommodations like?
We had stayed at the Gramalia in Arusha, which was a beautiful property or a nice place to spend 2 days for us to decompress after the flight.
Right.
From there, we went to the Serena Mountain Lodge, which is built into the side of the crater. It is very rustic. It fits right in the landscape. It was very comfortable and it has a breathtaking view of the crater. From there, we went to the Four Seasons in the Serengeti, definitely a 5-star property. It's all inclusive. Your beverages are included, wine, beer, spirits. There may be a small additional cost for top shelf, but it was, very, very comfortable with a fantastic view of the plane.
So we're talking 4 and 5 star properties for the most part.
Yeah.
How did you find the food and obviously the service? Sounds to me like the service was 5 star. How was the food?
The food was, that was where I think our group had a bit of a reservation. We didn't know what to expect
Right.
when we got there. We had, I would say, there were some local foods, more rice, meat dishes, local beef, fish, vegetables. So I would say it was a mixture of local fare and American.
Right.
We did not have any issues with the food throughout. So most of the places were buffet. We did have the experience once we were in the Serengeti where we had a private dinner just for our group
Right.
in what they call the treehouse at the Four Seasons overlooking the watering hole. The Four Seasons also offered freshly made pizza, which is probably one of the best pizzas I've ever had in the Serengeti. It was
Pizza.
just beautiful.
Pizza in Africa. Who knew?
So the food was very varied, and I think there's something there for everybody.
Right on, right on. So what was your favorite experience?
Oh, it's like trying to name your favorite child. I think the crater was such an unexpected
Right.
surprise because there were so many different species of animals in the crater. It was hard to leave there.
Wow.
The balloon ride was breathtaking. To hover above the animals, we experienced the Great Migration while we were in the Serengeti, which is why a lot of people go to Tanzania is
Right.
to experience the Great Migration. We were just driving along on safari one day and we happened to be in the midst of the migration. There was probably 10,000 wildebeest there. You just turn around in every direction and there they were. So there were a lot of really great moments in this safari.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Now you mentioned earlier that you went in May and June. Is that a good time of year to go?
May and June, it is on the end of the rainy season.
Right.
And, I monitored the weather before we went and I could see week for week it was getting better. We actually did not have any rain at all in
Okay.
the 7
Yeah.
It was not overly hot. I would say it was probably 75, 80 degrees in the afternoon. Like I said, the mornings can be cool. The evenings can also be cool. Bring a jacket for the morning, but a little bit layered look so you can start peeling as the day goes
Right.
on. It was a good time. Their high season is June, July,
Right.
August. That is their winter in Tanzania.
Right.
So the temperatures can be somewhat cooler. So I would say anywhere from, end of May, June through to November is a great time to go.
Okay. Did you have any packing restrictions? Like, were you limited in how much you could take?
We were limited, I'll say, from taking the flight out of the Serenera airstrip because it's a smaller
Of
aircraft.
course.
So they had a 20-kilo weight restriction.
Hmm.
I found I had a small duffel bag with me and I had a knapsack, a carry on
Right.
knapsack. And that was all I brought, other than I had an extra knapsack to take during the day.
Right.
I would suggest bringing a duffel bag as opposed to a hard sided
Right.
suitcase because it does get packed into the back of the Jeep when you're moving from location to location.
Right. Much easier.
So soft sided is definitely
Yeah.
better.
Good tip. Much easier to move around.
There is laundry services at these
Right.
hotels. They know people are on safari. It can get
Yeah.
dusty. You have the opportunity to have your things laundered at a, minimal
Right.
cost. So you really don't need to bring that much. I would suggest long pants. We had a day that was warmer
Right.
where some of the guys had zip off pants, which
Oh,
was
yes.
ideal.
Yeah.
I had shorts on one day. I don't know that I would travel in shorts again. So you don't really need to bring much. It's also better in the morning and the evening if there should be mosquitoes that you're covered.
Now, speaking of mosquitoes, did you have any tips or suggestions for malaria or yellow fever vaccinations? Did you need those?
Yellow fever is only required if you're coming from a country that has yellow fever. So, for instance, if you're coming from Kenya going into
Right.
Tanzania, then you need to be have immunization against yellow fever.
Right.
It was not necessary for
Hmm.
us. It does depend on what country you're coming from, what those vaccination requirements are. For us, we had a typhoid vaccination, we had cholera.
Right.
We took medication like Ducorol against cholera before we
Right.
left. And we did take malaria pills once a day for the time that we were there.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, in terms of looking at a private tour like this, well, let's get down to brass tacks. What would the cost per person be on something like that, roughly?
I mean, that will highly depend on what type of accommodations you
Right.
have. If I have to give a roundabout number, you might be able to do it for about 6,000 US, but that's just really a bare bottom number. It does depend on, you can have a private tour
Hmm.
where it's just one or two of you in the Jeep. You can do a semi private tour where there may be four
Right.
people in your Jeep. We had six. We had a private tour. I put that group together based on the accommodations of the Jeep. So there are a lot of variables in that, but there is really something, I'll say, for most budgets.
Something key to this, though, I'm sure when you're planning a vacation like this, though, Suzanne, would be to have the services of an expert travel advisor to sort through all those details.
I mean, now that I've had boots on the ground there and I've done this
Yeah.
myself, I can guide clients. There are various safaris within
Yeah.
Tanzania. It's not just, head to the Serengeti. They have different areas that they travel. They do try and accommodate close to the migration because it's continually moving,
Right.
that you get to experience that. But it's not just the tour that I did.
Right.
There are various routes that you can take.
So there's so many pieces and moving parts to it. It's well worth your
Definitely.
time to have an advisor in your corner.
And the air is, additional to
Of
that,
course. Coming from North America, folks should consider 20 hours of flight of travel time.
at
Long
least.
day.
Yeah. It's a long day,
Yeah.
but I touched base with my group after we arrived home, and the flying part of it was not even part of the equation. It was such a great
Yeah.
experience for everyone.
You mentioned something that it touched you. Here at RTE Travel Talk, we've been focusing on Africa this month. And one of the misconceptions I had coming into this month was this is kind of like a bucket list thing, one and done. But I've talked to a couple of folks now that said, you know what, it's not one and done. Once you go once, if you have the affordability, people are going back because it's just that amazing. Would you agree with
Well,
that?
I'm going back.
Well, there you go.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm already working on putting another group together to go back.
Who should experience an African safari? Is there any age brackets or limits?
Yeah, I would say if you have small kids, maybe under 5, it might be a little bit more difficult because you are sitting for a good part of the day.
Right,
But the experience of being this close to the animals, I think, is so valuable that even for children,
right.
it would be a wonderful experience, whether it be for families, we'll say extended families with grandparents. The only thing is you have to be fairly nimble.
Right,
You're climbing in and out of a Jeep several times a day. Is a lot of bouncing around. There are washboard roads. It's dusty. If you feel that you can handle sitting for a good part of the day, obviously we have rest stops
yeah,
along the way. That would be the one criteria. If you have back issues, that's something I think you should probably discuss with your medical practitioner
right,
because there is a lot of bumping
right.
going around. These are
Yeah,
not smooth roads, there are potholes, there are washboard, but it was something that fell to the back of our minds while we were traveling because what we were seeing was just so
just
spectacular.
amazing.
We just didn't really think about it after a few days. We were on the road and our guide was constantly spotting things that we never would have spotted.
So, key takeaway on health and wellness is if you've got a kind of a mobility issue or that sort of thing, check with your travel advisor before you make the investment.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. It's probably a good piece of advice that you see your medical practitioner before you make a trip like
right on.
this.
Yeah,
Just to go over the vaccination requirements and to make sure that you're physically fit to
right,
do a trip like this. I can't say enough good things about this. And I think if it's within someone's means to do
right,
this, it is an unforgettable experience. And it touched me more so than I thought it ever could.
right. So, at the conclusion, you did a post stay in Zanzibar?
We did.
Yeah,
We flew, like I said, from the Serenera airstrip
right,
in the Serengeti to Zanzibar, where we stayed at the Baraza Resort and Spa,
right.
which is a beach resort. It's not close to Stone Town, so you are a little bit removed from the hustle and bustle of Zanzibar. They have only villas at this resort. We had a beachfront villa, which was beautiful. We had a private plunge pool. We had our own designated lounges at the beach with a palapa. It was a beautiful few days just to have some R&R after the safari.
Oh, fantastic. So it would be comparable to a five-star Caribbean resort then, would it?
I would say so.
Yeah,
It was, like I said, at the end of May is still a little bit coming off the rain season. So it was not, there were not a lot of guests at the resort.
right.
So it was beautiful
Be
for
nice.
us.
Yeah. No, be nice.
And the
Oh,
service was impeccable.
fantastic, fantastic. Well, Suzanne, this is absolutely super information for anyone looking at this type of vacation. Is there anything else you'd like to add or advise people who are looking to book a safari?
Yeah, I think it's important to do some research. I mean, that's obviously what we do. We do it for
Right.
you to make sure that, there are obviously different locations, Botswana, South Africa, Namibia, and Tanzania and Kenya.
Well, if folks wanted to find out more information and get in touch with you about an upcoming African safari or another vacation, how would they do that, Susanne?
They can reach me at email at Susanne at cruiseholidays.com, or they can call me at the office. The number is 905-337-2228, and I'll be happy to advise them further. I am working at taking a couple extra trips down. If you want an escorted group tour, I'll be happy to put that together. Or if you want to go privately, that I can be happy to put that together for them as well.
Super, super. So I always like to ask my guests, because I know it's part of your job that you have to travel to experience all of these wonderful places. Where are you off to next?
I'm back to Tanzania.
well,
I'm going
well,
back.
that really
Yeah.
says something about the experience now, doesn't it?
Yeah. Like I said, it touched me deeply.
So when are you going back?
Working on November,
Of this year,
either
of 24.
of the, yeah,
Wow.
23.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either November
Sure.
or in the spring. Yeah. It was, such a fabulous experience. And the group that I went with, they've talked to me a few times after we've been back, and they said that this far exceeded their expectations. And, I feel so steadfast about this. I want to be able to share it with other people.
Well, there you go. Well, I look forward to seeing some pictures from the next one that you're on. We'll have to cut.
Yeah.
We'll have to have you come back to regale us with your adventures on that safari.
I'd love to, Ken.
Well, with that, I'm just going to wish you great adventures and happy traveling. May the wind always be at your back, and I hope to see you on an African safari sometime soon in the future.
Thank you, Ken.
Take care.
Bye bye.
And that about wraps it up for today, folks. A very special thanks to my guest, Susanne Rose of Cruise Holidays of Oakville. If you'd like to reach Susanne about an African safari or another vacation, I will leave her contact information in the description. If you'd like to reach us with a suggestion for a future video or a comment, you can send a question to questions@realtravelexperts.com, visit our website, realtravelexperts.com, or simply leave a comment. We always respond. And as always, folks, if you enjoyed this content, a like, subscribe, and a ring of the bell is certainly appreciated and helps us to spread the word. So until next time, happy travels.